Hello, welcome to Observing Time. I'm Rachel Rakes, curator of public practice here at Bach. This conversation with Tehching Hsieh, Amelia Groom, and Adrian Heathfield takes place in the context of the project No Linear Fucking Time, an exhibition with gatherings, an online publication, and a symposium that unsettle dominant temporalities and model alternate forms of livable time. The title of the project originates from a tweet from June 2020, which featured a snapshot of a building graffitied with the statement, "No cops, no jails, no linear fucking time." The image of these parallel propositions, with two declarations that could readily be found written on walls or shouted in protest all over the world, "No cops, no jails," oddly paired with a pronunciation against a widely accepted rational version of ordering time in life, soon went viral. The implicit reason for this is similar to the motivation for this project. The global adaptation of a Western, linear, progressive model of the keeping, measuring, and organizing of time supports the predicament of ever-intensifying inequality that defines much of the world at this moment. Further, and to pull from the introduction into our exhibition guidebook, no linear, can do the next slide. No linear fucking time comes out of a satisfying awareness that, by this point, the largely adopted version of time has indeed carried all of humanity, despite its differences and with increasing acceleration, to an ostensible dead end. Promises of modern progress and the exploitation and extraction that attend them have led to a point of dire global inequality and ecological disasters that may well mean the end of humanity on Earth, or at least the vast majority of it. But we know that alongside this vision of progress and these particular structuring ideologies, there are already many counter-conceptions to forming the past, present, and future in our lives and others, as well as many waiting to be speculatively formed or remixed. This project gathers a few. So before we move on to this evening's talk, I wanted to offer a few views of the exhibition to give a sense of the overall project and offer a bit on the methodology of its formation, in light especially of the fact that due to the lockdown measures here in Netherlands, we've been unable to open physically the project since the 19th of December, although hopefully we'll be able to reopen quite soon. And then go back to the credit page. Okay, thank you. In terms of the project formation, one of the key elements was to involve a few creative research partners to work along with me. This started with the artists Femke Herraven, Jumana Mana, and Claudia Martinez, who have commissioned work in the show, but were also invited to work as kind of co-curators and interlocutors, inviting artists and theorists whose work aligns or productively counterposes with the research and aesthetics of their own. For example, Femke Herraven's practice revolves around defining the materials, geographies, and value systems that are carved out by financialization of the future. Her work sees this as a series of catastrophes and examines these within social, biological, and technological ecosystems. She has thus brought in other artists, you can go back, thus brought in other artists and thinkers to the exhibition and upcoming programs who deal with the technology shaping the history of financial speculation, values of modernity and precision, and extractive capitalism, all of which run on time. Jumana Mana's film and sculptural practice explores how power is articulated through relationships, thereby focusing on the body, land, and materiality in relation to colonial inheritances and histories of place. The practices and ideas that she has brought in involve conceptions of time and preservation, ethnography, formalisms, and biological timescales. Often through the socio-political memory and history of Peru, Claudia Martinez-Carré's work challenges the persistence of colonialist frameworks and reviews unofficial narratives and vernacular archives. Her recent work is a look at Andean culture and racialized bodies through remnants, such as the imagery and artifacts looted or kept abroad, and the works and ideas she's brought in here explore how temporal experience greatly differs across cultural and class lines. In addition, Amelia Groom, who's also with us tonight, has accompanied me as our managing editor, Witske Mas, in commissioning a no linear fucking time focus on our online publication platform, Prospections. The first part of this is already online, and the second part will be released in March this year. The video of tonight's discussion will also be presented there. And I just wanted to focus on this slide to show some of the broader contributors to the project. This is a growing list, but since we'll only be able to touch on a few in this intro, I wanted to at least give some space to those so far. To move on to just a bit about the installation. Some first images, these first two images are from Femke Herreraven's A Petrified Forest, A Calculated Plume, which considers through deep time, colonial time, and speculative doom casting, the Merapi volcano on Java Island. Since the beginning of the Dutch colonial era, this has been the most surveyed volcano in the world. Merapi, which is the physical and spiritual home to several local communities, has since 2021 been enveloped inside the financial algorithm of the first ever volcanic catastrophe bond. The mixed media installation here brings together 20 million-year-old petrified forest from Java, colonial geological drawings, live footage from Merapi, and an animated ash plume, which together merge the mythology of the volcano with the mythology of a science that acts on the belief that it is able to predict a linear extrapolation of the natural world. And the next is one of the artists introduced to the show by Femke, Yerry Patterson. His practice similarly deals with power, precision, technology, and speculation. His world clock here connects a chip-scale atomic clock with a global navigation satellite system and a disciplined oscillator in such a way that reverses the relationship of the dominant technological pairing that fueled colonial expansion and most of the infrastructure that we have today, systems that we have today. The next slide. Jumana Mana's new film installation, Foragers, contends with contrasting views of land and landscape, and how these views determine what gets preserved, protected, and remembered. It focuses on the occupied Golan Heights, where hundreds of people, exclusively Arabs, have been punished for the collection of wild edible plants such as akub and zatar because of Israeli preservation laws. This criminalization and the exclusion of local foraging practices foreclose native experience, ethics, and relations, but with this work, by revising the terms and constraints of preservation and allowing multiple agencies to take precedence, whether ancestral, non-human, less empowered, or minor, the film challenges these temporal agencies and impulses behind modern preservation laws and concepts. Mana's ceramics are scattered throughout the exhibition. They mimic the practice of leaving uneaten bread outdoors for an unknown receiver, tracing the transformation of an object of nutrition into the anxiety of uneaten food. The bread often rots and decomposes, creating different colors and textures. And these sculptures then freeze this stage of microbial transformation. One of the artists, next slide, that Jumana brought into the project is Simone Fattal, whose sculptures resemble antiquities or ruins, but instead made with contemporary apparatus or contemporary tools, or as poet Etel Adnan calls it, inventing apparitions. Move on. Claudia Martinez-Gray's commissioned work addresses ideas of continuous and discontinuous development of Andean cultures and traditions. They've been affected by native massacres, cultural erasure, and state policies that seek to maintain Andean traditions' purity. Embedded into these works are various concepts from Andean cosmovision, shared through terminologies such as Pachacudi, Pacha, Wakcha, and Chaupi. Pachacudi, for instance, is a Quechua term that signals a cyclical return to an initial point and is thus a marker for revolution and transformation. Her works superimpose and remix images and ideas from native cultures in the past and current time to allow a communication and incorporation between them in relational and collective need for learning and reimagining the future from what is already known. And I want a side note here that it's so hard to go through these works and these little blurbs because there's so much to say about all of them, and even works we won't mention at this moment, but I just want to give you a glimpse, and we can keep talking about this over the next few months. But then to move on, the following is a work by an artist introduced by Claudia, Antonio Pocar. Circulo ando Altoplano deals with contemporary forms of cyclical time through the real braids of Andean women, which are cut, sold, and reattached in the precarious cycles of leaving community and returning. Beyond these three areas of inquiry related to the artist's interlocutors, there are several works in the project that address important additional temporal frameworks such as carceral time, queer time, historical revisionist time, and so on. These include, among several others, Pauline Baudry and Renate Lorenz's No Time, which probes ideas of queer anti-chrononormativity. The video's performers' movements slow down, halt, and fall out of sync with one another, creating an unpredictable choreography and rhythm, and forming new minoritarian temporalities. Then, of course, and coming back to the subject of tonight's discussion, Tehching Hsieh's time clock piece is on view. Hsieh's work is known for its durational, endurant, and repetitive qualities. His performances put tension on the experience of time through demonstrative stress situations, such as spending a year completely outdoors in New York City. This work, the documentation of his time clock piece, also painfully compresses or distills labor time as it affects daily life and experience. Its 6-minute revolution speeds up the sleeplessness and degradation in a way that mimic more recent labor situations such as the sweatshop, the gig economy, and the corporate world. The way tonight's conversation will be formed is that each of the three contributors will speak, followed by an open discussion, which then flows into the next speech until we end in a final discussion. And throughout, I'm very happy to invite the audience to send questions in the chat for any part of the conversation or anything that any of us remarks. We can also sort of talk more broadly at the end. But for now, I will read through my bios, and we will start off with Tehching Hsieh. Tehching Hsieh is a performance artist best known for his one-year performances. Using long durations, making art and life simultaneous, he was at the forefront of radical approaches to contemporary art in the 70s and 80s. As a high school dropout, and after serving the Army in Taiwan, Hsieh experimented with painting and performance action before he trained to be a seaman to come to the United States in 1974. His first 4 one-year performances made him a regular name in the art scene in New York, whereas the last 2 pieces intentionally retreated from the art world. His recent exhibitions include Doing Time at the 57th Venice Biennial and one-year performance, 1980 to 81, at the Tate Modern London. Amelia Groom is a writer and art historian. She's currently working on a collection of essays on the politics of silence, as well as a long-term project on gossip and rumor as queer feminist epistemologies. Her writing has been published in Eflux Journal, Frieze, Art Agenda, The Contemporary Journal, Another Gaze, and Extra, among others. She teaches in the Critical Studies Department at Sandberg Institute in Amsterdam and currently holds a research position at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. She edited Time, a volume about alternatives to linear models of time in the Documents of Contemporary Art series published by Whitechapel Gallery and MIT Press. And then finally, and last but not least, Adrian Heathfield writes on, curates, and creates performance. He's the author of Out of Now, a monograph on the artist Tehching Hsieh, also an editor of Ally and Live, Art and Performance, and co-editor of Perform, Repeat, and Record. He conducted the creative research project Curating the Ephemeral from 2014 to 2016. He's also a member of the collective Free Thought, who were the 2020 Bach Fellows and who are currently working with our fellowship and programming through the concept of spectral infrastructure. And so there is much more to come on that. Finally, this event comes about because of the support of several Bach colleagues. And for tonight, I would especially like to thank Kai Beinen, Hede van Groningen, Holger Leonard, and Thomas Orbon. The overall project, No Linear Fucking Time, is supported by the Dutch Ministry of Education, Culture and Science, the City of Utrecht, and the Bauhaus Funds. And with that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Tehching. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, to introduce. And it's my honor to join BAK the talk. Okay, I start to introduce my work. Lifetime and art time. I was an illegal immigrant in the state for 14 years, and most of my one-year performance were done during this time. We could use the Panama Canal as an example. When the ship comes from the lower to the higher water level, or the other way around, the ship can pass through only when the two different water levels meet. The water level of my art and life need to be the same, so I can sail into art from life and transfer lifetime to art time. My performance work show different perspective of thinking about life, but these perspectives are all basically on the same precondition. Life is a life sentence. Life is passing time. Life is a free thinking. I want to talk about life, the intersection between life and universe. 1 year relative close to this intersection. For me, I think it is rhythm to art and life. It is a repetition, but it is also different. Every second, every minute, every hour is different. There is no going back. But paradoxically, we are doing the same thing over and over again. 1 year is the basically unit for human being to calculate life, and it is also the time the Earth takes to circle the sun. I like to use real time. This allows me to live in art time and singing freely. People ask me how I will pass time today. I don't ask myself how to pass the day. I'm just passing time, but I know I did pass yesterday, and I have confidence that I will pass today, and I hope that I can pass tomorrow. That's all I can answer. Signed 2000. I don't do art anymore. I just like what Sunubi said. Life is change. Okay, I finished. Thank you.
Adrian, Amelia, do you want to kick it off? Or?
Sure, yeah, I can. I'd like to. Tehching,
yeah,
can I ask you?
I'll go ahead, Adrian.
Oh, sorry, Amelia. I'd like to, because you mentioned your illegal status, Tehching, And, you know, Rachel was talking about this tweet and this graffiti which titles the exhibition, and in that title there's an implicit relationship between the law and phenomena that are against linear time. No police, no jails. And I'm very interested in a particular dimension of your work, which is that you use, as it were, the language of the law. So each of your one-year performances starts with a statement, but to me that statement is kind of like a contract. It's a contract with yourself almost. And you use also in many of the one-year performances signed seals and witness statements. So again, this is the kind of the language of the law, its tools. So I wanted to ask you, how do you think about your relationship to the law? Because it would be very easy to romanticize you as a kind of fugitive artist. But I'm interested in finding out how you think your relationship to the law and how that has affected your work.
Yeah, I have to say I don't emphasize my work is it's law strongly, but I very interested to use law because I have a illegal 14 years to live in the state, and I have to pay attention for law. What's my situation can fix it, but also because personality, I like to do things real, so I use real time and real law, or the real lawyer in present time. So make the work is I already said the Panama Canal is a light level, or the art time, the low level, high level, lifetime and art time had to be same level. So I switch, but of course to be artist, you have to be understanding what art can make a transform. You have to know how to do that, and so this is the law issue. It's give me to make a present time in argue, and it's look like like a murderer. Case they want to know you are in first place or second or third, right? So we want to keep the present, because to me, I don't want it to be like say, okay, my work, cage piece is a symbol about present, because I don't really live in present. I in my studio. So present time is studio, and what I, feel and the time. So it's the give quality is more, true quality, and also this art is doesn't matter true quality. It has to be real time or fiction. Like Kafka, the novel, it's fiction, but true quality. So doesn't matter. But it is I use law that give me support quite to people have their own experience. So that's all we can share. So.
Hey, Tehching, I'd love to ask you a bit about this full-time occupation you now have of passing time, as you put it. And in your wonderful presentation, you kind of anticipated this question that people always ask you, which is, what do you do now? If people are watching who don't already know, I think, you have this very specific practice. We can see on the wall behind you, there are these 5 one-year pieces and this final piece, which is ceasing doing art, right? And this is what you're now doing. You're now doing the not doing of art.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You want me to say? yeah, to me,
Well, I mean, I just was going to say that the last time we met, I asked you this question, which you always get, which is, what do you do now? Or, yeah, also, what did it mean to do this final work of not doing any more art? And you gave me such an amazing answer, which was that you said you just had no more ideas for artworks, that you had completed all the artworks that you had ideas for, and that's why you stopped.
no more. I answer people invoice. I doing that, because what are you doing? And of course, I still have extra time to move until live, right? So I extra that means that I have to be finished it. So consume more time until die. But of course, to me, doing live or doing art is all same thing doing time. So to me, my work, art, I call art, so it's a form, right? Another way, to me, life or art, it is, I have life, so I don't make a whole my person, I don't feel different, just passing time. So that's where I see, and of course, I don't create continue. People ask, you of course, I don't say I'm an artist now. I don't. Even people call me artist, but I don't. Art, you have to do the work, but I don't do work. So I don't have to be this name entitled for what I'm doing. But of course, I do talk and show some work. And now it's more like a philosophical conversation. Share with different life experience, people, yeah. So.
I'm not even sure how this is formed as a question exactly, but I guess I've been struck thinking about how, I mean, as with this show right now and many others, that, you continue to be asked to return to the works in some way, not to do them again, but to address them again, to experience, explain. And so there's this really long duration of these long duration projects. And I don't know if it's too broad of a question to say, what is your experience of that, like, cyclicalness? But I guess I'm curious about that kind of, these, like, these sort of revolutions of coming back to the works again and again in different contexts or different moments. Or if it's boring, or if it always, like, by positioning the works in always in these new moments, if there are always kind of ways to make new connections, that as a non-artist, maybe how you feel about coming back to the works again and again, even in 2022.
You ask me?
Yeah.
That question is asked me?
Yeah.
Oh, I say my English so badly because I went for so long. I don't know that is asking me question. My English so bad. You ask me about I'm not artist and how I feel, right?
And coming back to these projects again and again and again, even after stopping doing work, but so even in this year,
because
coming back.
To me, you see, to me, I have nothing lose. I mean, I have nothing lose because I don't feel, I already make a 6 piece of artwork. And of course, I'm very creative, can be have a new work. And I know if I don't have feel strong, can make a new work. And I'd rather to be, like I said, my work in the last 2 pieces, you already know that's I cannot back to normal to do work, So what it is, I have life and I still life. So I'm, I think to be artist like that. You feel comfortable, you said, doesn't matter outside have judged you. You are not creative person no more. And of course, you see, the last two pieces I already almost not public for a long time. And then after that, I don't do art anymore. You can see it, normal is artwork, in New York, like I said, one decade. If you are 10 years, you don't do it, then means you already goodbye. The artwork will not recognize me. But to me, I don't want to say it's because lucky, and then I come back again. This is nature. It's just like what I have and what I can share with people to talk. That's all I can do. Another way, I feel importance of freedom. I feel comfortable myself, and I don't have to be, say extract something if I don't feel I want to say, so I'd rather to be quiet by my own, So I feel comfortable. Now I talk to public, only introduce my older work. But of course, the time is the present time. I still alive, and I still have thinking. So now I talk, thinking, and I enjoy, to conversation. That's good. I don't have to be, say, what means success or art career. That's it's something else. So yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Adrian, did you have another comment before we maybe move on to Amelia's presentation? Or
just to say, it reminded me of something that I heard you say previously, Tehching, when you described the condition you are now in, and you called yourself at one point a sub artist.
Uh-huh.
And I liked this phrase, the sub artist. So the substitute, someone who stands in for the artist, but also someone who somehow might be below the nomination of artist at some other level, not a proper artist anymore. It also made me think a little bit like you are, because a lot of the work that you do now is caring for the work that you have done, in the sense that you are communicating, sharing, showing the work, but not creating work, not producing work. So it feels also a little bit like you are the caretaker of the work.
I'm the witness. Yeah, I'm the witness and take care, because you see, my life in here, I only myself now, right? I don't have children, and to me, six pieces is like my child, right? So I had to respond. If I'm a poor artist, then how I can find a rich family to give them take care? And that step I may have to take care. Another way, I don't, means I still have to, I don't have assistant, because I don't have a business much to do. So I don't have money to pay somebody to take care of my work. So I slowly, to make I'm 71 years old now. You see, one thing is that my birthday is the last day of a year. So if I do 1 year, and then also the day, the new year, the last day, that's give people to see the past and future. So to me, I calculate my life in the 70 to 80. I see my brain, I still can work by myself, So I try to make it this, to give next step in this period of time. And then I become more free to passing my time. Anyway, so I don't have much bother me for say, I have to be you know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't, it's already, the work already public, already existed in public. It's not like I can do anything to, you know, it's just like myself. I say sub-artist because that's give me my position. I still can do something. That document is not really my artwork. It's a sub, you know, sub something, you know, sub art, you know what I mean? So to me, I'm the sub art and to take care of sub, you know, and sub art, and then to give, you know, people to handle it. So that's the step I'm doing. Just my job, you know what I mean? So, but I'm feel happy in now my life anyway. So.
Amelia, would you like to take it away with your presentation provocation?
Sure. I was basically going to revisit a talk that I gave a few years ago with Tehching at the Tate Modern in 2017 as part of the work installed there. And I was looking back on that talk and found that, yeah, one of the things I was drawing from there is like reading Tehching's work alongside the work of like one of the other great performance artists of the 20th century in America, Dolly Parton. And this is basically started because of the coincidence in time, because the song 9 to 5 and the film that it was attached to came out in 1980 as Tehching was doing this work that is now installed at Bach, time clock piece. This is a work in which he documents himself clocking in on a worker's time clock every hour on the hour, 24 hours a day for a whole year. And so the video installed at Bach is the kind of time-lapse documentation of this arduous process. So yeah, I ended up today thinking more about 9 to 5 and what it allows us to think, and also the limits of what it allows us to think about time and labor. The film came out of Jane Fonda's production company, IPC, or Indo-China Peace Campaign, named after her anti-war organization. And the title 9 to 5 came from a Boston Association of Working Women, also called 9 to 5. Fonda had known some of the women involved in that labor organization through the anti-war movement. And so in the film and in Dolly Parton's song, which is played in the opening credits, the oppression of workers, specifically female office workers, is depicted very often in temporal terms. So we began with a montage of different alarm clocks going off, one after another, followed by shots of different anxious workers rushing to make it in time to the office. There is a sequence of cups of coffee poured as Dolly Parton sings, "I pour myself a cup of ambition." Caffeinated bodies are sped up and made to arrive into a time of optimized productivity. One of them spills her cup of ambition as she rushes through the city. Everywhere there is not enough time, and it's all accompanied by the relentless sound of clicking typewriters, which also sound like ticking clocks. At the office where the three secretaries, played by Jane Fonda, Dolly Parton, and Lily Tomlin, work, there is a time clock. And it's almost identical to the one that appears in Tehching's contemporaneous performance art piece. I'm just going to share my screen to show you this. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can see here Fonda's character is clocking in 5 minutes late. on her 9-to-5 job. And yeah, you can see they're almost identical time clocks.
And there's a cop.
There is, yeah. When I talked about 9-to-5 alongside Tehching's work back in 2017, I suggested that the critique of time discipline in the film only goes so far. We witness some of the violence to the body that happens under the tyranny of the clock, as the anarchist George Woodcock phrased it. And we witness how, when the three secretaries kidnap their chauvinist boss and begin running the office on their own terms, one of the first changes they implement is the removal of the time clock so that workers no longer have to clock in and clock out. At the end of the film, the introduction of part-time options and greater flexibility with work hours is presented as a win for these women in their fight against clock tyranny. But the story ultimately affirms the ideals of ever-increasing productivity and concentrated profit. There is nothing necessarily subversive in removing the disciplinary mechanism of the time clock, if it simply means that the time of work is able to encroach ever further into the rest of the time. And this brings me to a new version of the 9-to-5 song, which I didn't talk about last time because it only came out last year. Some of you would have seen it. Dolly Parton recorded a version of the song for a Squarespace commercial, which aired in the Super Bowl last year. And it's heart-wrenchingly grim. Her original lyrics were crystal clear on conditions of worker exploitation. 9-to-5, yeah, they got you where they want you, barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it, and you spend your life putting money in his wallet. So these are memes showing that Marx actually plagiarized Parton's 9-to-5. But in the new version of the song, all worker discontent is evacuated as Dolly sings a creepy ode to the gig economy, where workers clock off at 5 p.m., what used to be the end of the workday for them, and then they work joyously from 5 to 9, as in 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., working on their dreams. These are stills from the video that you can find on YouTube. She sings, 5 to 9, you keep working, 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 because it's hustling time, a whole new way to make a living. You've got dreams and you know that they matter. Be your own boss, climb your own ladder. I'm gonna stop sharing, I think, here. So as I said, it's pretty grim. I basically wanted to think together about the nighttime and this encroachment into the time that used to be outside of work. And Tehching, you've already mentioned that you had arrived in the US and that you lived there for the first 14 years undocumented. You were part of the undocumented immigrant labor force that America's economy has long been dependent on. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you were working also night shifts in restaurants, cleaning and washing dishes while others slept. So this kind of like, 5 to 9 time was something that you were living. So I wanted to ask you about that, in the background of Time Clock Piece and the other performance works. And then I just have like a very basic question for you, because I'm curious, how did you support yourself financially during a work like Time Clock Piece, and who was supporting you, who was around you at the time? I would love to know.
Yeah, actually. Well, you see, when I started Catch Piece, I do clean a restaurant in Soho, right?
Mhm.
And I quit the job because 1 year you have to be, because first I have 5,000 square feet locked in the Tribeca. So I divide some space, I separate. I know how to do construction a little bit, so I become make my rent become most lower, and then my family in Taiwan give me some little money. So I almost like $150 for the food, for 1 month, very low. And because I have a friend, if without this friend give me, of course I don't pay him, but he's a friend. In Taiwan we already good friends, so he immigrated here. So his job only 1 block away, so he can give me food. Right? So is it to do this kind of work? Poor artist, you don't have money to do that, and also space, right? But rich artist, you don't want to do this kind of suffer, kind of tough work. So I'm between. I had to have money, survival year, and then to do that. So everything had to be many different issue. I had to be answered by my own, right? So you see, I finished Catch Piece in 1 week, 1 month. My body, because I don't have a sunshine, so very weak. But then I come out to do a construction. But if people work with me, they feel danger because my body, I don't balance well or carry like wood, right? They feel like I'm dangerous person to close to me to work with, you know what I mean? But I actually quickly I go back to restaurant, become do dishwash. So I do that between each piece. The gap I cannot find. I need to dishwash, and then they have the owner. They have another restaurant, so I go there to do clean in 47th Street to do clean the wax in the restaurant again. And then I go to time clock piece because I already have idea, so I prepare. So to me, because I'm young age, I still, means that I don't need a big space. I can rent out some, so I become at least space enough for I can do catch piece. After catch more out, then I time clock install, and also low piece, same in the same studio. So that's I done 3 pieces in Tribeca in that space. And so to me, is it because I have my family can give me not much money, but it is enough for me to survive, right? And I don't have grant because I'm no legal. I cannot have grant, and I don't apply. Even until now, I don't apply grant because I'm not artist anymore. I cannot apply because they were asking me what kind of work you do. I don't really, I don't reach that. So I don't have this kind of, to me, I feel freedom. I do what I like to do by my own. I don't have to ask, what outside can give to me. So that's kind to me, even in illegal immigrant, and this thing, but I have to be don't afraid, even like wasting time, but I can wasting time for more in life, wasting time and move to out wasting time. That's make it become positive, become you wasting time in art, and that's give you power for you have something to say, and that's people question about what time we use it. What I mean? Working hard or not working hard. It's to me, I would say homeless people working hard because they wanna find the food. If they are lazy, don't want to get a food, then they cannot survive. So at least they try to catch the garbage, even they find garbage can or have a food. I would say they're working hard, you know what I mean? for survival, right? But because we cannot use society angle to say, oh, you have to be do 9 to 5, you know, then you get it, you know, get it that. So to me, you know, because my position is in artist, so I can use time. You know, I feel I'm best for my work. Make a special difference is because I wasting time is my experience with life to use in the right spot, you know, in art. So time I use it just fit in art because I working 24 hours, you know, working hard but I wasting time. So that's give me, you know, the work I can upside down and to see, you know, in different angle. You know, look like I say, if my work, somebody give me like $1 million to do the time clock piece, I would say many people were in line because they want a job, right? You know what I mean? But because I don't get any money from outside, I just punch. Even after 30 years, you know, my work have a tape collect, you know, my work, you know, that kind, we don't expect 30 years can be what happened, right? So to me, you know, I mean, the work concept, I would say just right. Even I'm illegal, but I don't, you know, I get amnesty to get it legal, right? I'm not like marry somebody to get it. So to me, the idea I have a good record, you know, you know, I get amnesty means it's not like somebody give me, it's the law give to me, right? So I take it, you know what I mean? It's not like one woman, one help me, and because I do my work, that period of time, I don't have a marriage, you know what I mean? If I have marriage, I don't think I can free to do the each piece. That's another problem. So to me, is it my work to fit in different time? Like I said, people will say, oh, what is the catch piece? And then all the time code piece, why is not that in the, because that's the way time you pass, you don't back it, you know what I mean? You are start and then more next step, move to the next step, and then that's that. So, but so far I only 6 steps to go, right? And then I already have long term. I'm, you know, what I mean, I'm wasting time in that, but I got freedom because I'm not like my need is not for. You know, look like when I not finish high school, I already become my life, become one art become my most. I feel I live. That's the give me the power what I am to live. You know what I mean? So even now I don't do art, you know, but at least I already, you know what I mean, means enough for me to one circle in now, you know what I mean? So I feel, you know, it's not complain anything. You know, I do what and I will get what, you know what I mean? So it's all right. Yeah, I'm happy for that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Amelia's presentation and what you're saying now also in response to Jing. Well, I mean, first of all, it reminds me so much of how prescient time clock piece is in the sense that it predicts a kind of situation of production in which capitalized production has taken over the whole of life in some way. You know, you don't do 9 to 5, you do 24/7. And so I think at that moment in the early 80s, it's an incredibly foresighted understanding of what would happen to the relationship between work time and leisure time, but also the biopolitical stakes of capitalism, the way in which we are now all giving our flesh to those systems of consumption and production. But it made me think also because, of course, of that Jonathan Crary book 24/7, in which he talks about one idea of what this economy is about is that it is oriented towards the abolition of sleep. That we light the night and we labor through the night, and sleep is abolished. And it reminded me that these works, the time clock piece, is very much about sleeping and not sleeping, and but also the outdoor piece, right? When you are outside on the streets in New York, I remember you said once that in order to waste time, to kill time, sleep is good, and I'm very interested in how sleep.
Excuse me, Adrian.
Yeah.
Can I show one picture about sleeping?
Oh, it's Snoopy.
Yeah, sleeping. Okay, just a second. Let me. You see, this I sleep, right? And this is the high speed and recording. This is the watch and have alarm. I have microphone and recording. And then until the near on time, then alarm will make a high speed. And then I can wake up. Yeah, that's the image I can show you. That's.
So you made a whole apparatus to keep waking yourself, basically.
No,
New
I
machinery.
don't. Yeah, I don't hire people to wake me up because this is more like a, we use machine or technique. That's where it's right for this piece. So I say that, yeah. Okay, Adrian, you can go ahead to say something.
No, but it just reminds me again what an innovation, the level of innovation in relationship to your body as well, that you knew that you couldn't get through this piece unless you invented that apparatus to keep waking yourself, right? But anyway, it's just an observation. It's not so much a question, but maybe it's related to what you were saying, because your idea when wasting time enters the art framework, you call that working hard to waste time, right? Mm. It's very close to what Miladin Stilinovic says about the problem with art in the West is that the Western artists don't know how to be lazy. And I think thinking now about your work in that framework, it's so interesting to see how the phenomena of sleep are formulated in each of these one-year performances. But could you tell us about sleeping on the street?
Me?
Yeah.
What is it? Like you say, winter, of course, they have a 14th Street meat market. They have homeless people will go there and build fire. So it's it's more easier for survival because winter time that year is the coldest year in the century. So many, police will come to catch the homeless people to go to shelter because they don't allow people frozen below the zero to stay outside. So but because I don't want to go inside, so I have to be hiding, try to stay, don't give them to find me. But it's I have a different bench or the park or empty swimming pool. So it's because New York City is quite in 80s quite violent. if I stay 1 year already, I already, have many happen, but I only one time I get a catch from police because I fight. But it's not only that fight, I have many fight, but only that one police catch me. That so it's because people don't like you to sleep in their door area. The owner very angry for homeless people, sleep in their door. So it's become you have to be enough to because I suppose should not fight with them, but I do that. That's why I get caught to police, because I am strong enough to fight back. That's why problem. Yeah. But I told you there are one artist, Ukraine, female artist, about maybe 27 that year. She tried to get a visa to come in to live in street for 1 year. She still tried, but I told her she want me to get permission. I say I don't. I say very dangerous. If you do that, I will. You're female and live in street. That's very dangerous. I don't want to, because she said she do that is my idea for that, but she just for her own experience. But I say I cannot write a piece of paper say you can because I don't want, I cannot to respond for that. I only say if you do it, then I come to visit you or something. But I know it's very difficult. Yeah. I don't want to mention somebody's name, but it just, at least she still contact with me and try to find possibility to do that. Yeah.
You would feel somehow that you were responsible in that context?
Well, because she want to get one piece document about I allow her to do that, but I say that's become like a law. We're talking about Adrian mentioned about law. That's I become even no law issue against me, but moral issue against me because I don't told her say don't do that. I let her to do it, so I have moral issue. So I can. So that
it sounds very complex. It's a very complex issue, I think, because of course.
Because she is wanted to see our courage to do that, but I already experienced. I know you have to prepare really 1 week to try or test to see how you can. You don't want to feel. You don't prepare to do that. Yeah. So. But just example, that because I'm the male, the female to do this kind, it's more dangerous. Even I'm the aging. My face is aging, and this aging homeless, they only stay in Chinatown. They don't go so far. But I don't go. I don't stay just in China. I go big area. So I'm not like white or the black in here. So in some ways, it's different. Yeah. So. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Rachel, go ahead.
Well, I have one question from the audience I maybe want to ask before we go to Adrian. That's for you, Tehching. Today we have technology like live webcams and social media to document our lives. I'm curious if you would have wanted to use these tools when you were performing to create the evidence, when you were creating the trace evidence of the pieces, or would you prefer for more to be left to the imagination?
Rachel, you ask me?
Yes, that's a question for you. So now that
my English is not so good. I'm not so sure what's the question.
So
say again,
now that we have kind of higher, more advanced technology to document performances, like with things like live webcam and kind of more advanced timekeeping and video documentation, would you want to use these tools, or do you prefer to have in creating evidence, or do you prefer to have things left out in documentation?
I told you I'm no person who document. You see, I'm camera until now, right? I still not so good or knowledge about what's camera. I only use the automatic, right? And so to me, my concept, my technique is about, I don't want to say camera or the video or picture. Of course, if I don't have this document, then I don't have here today, no evidence, right? But I use that is basically simple kind of document. Of course, compare my work, that is, I understand document, you can control what you want to do. Still, even I try to be sincere, honest, but anyway, still is a human control. So to me, my work technique is a concept become technique. It's not about, what tool you use. Of course, I use camera, I use different kind of, index, time card or the frame. But I'm not so, I still feel my more interest in, like I say, the life with survival, the technique. I don't want to use compare like a science kind of mean. I more talk about human, what to use, to understanding life, time, and being. That kind, I can say that's his technique. I less to talk about what you use what's equipment. I don't. You want to say Franz Kafka work is good technique or something, or some kind of philosopher technique, but their technique is more like the understanding human, experience life, the kind of, quality. So to me, I feel that's kind of technique. I'm more, more feel acceptable. Did I make sense? Richard?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I guess we can go on then to Adrian's presentation, the final one, and then we'll have some more conversation, if that works.
Sure, thanks, Rachel. So you asked us if we could read a fragment, and I think one that I've chosen is going back to a slightly older text, but one that is really trying to figure out what is happening in relationship to these phenomena of durational artworks. So the piece I'm going to read from is on basically what I'm calling durational aesthetics. It goes like this: durational aesthetics draw attention to the spatio-temporal limits of the artwork and privilege the making and unmaking of its meaning as a temporal matter. Such works often establish a temporal measure against which the work can be interpreted and deploy an alteration of its culturally ascribed terms. This may take many forms: counterpoint with cultural measure, or tradition through the counter-scheduling or invention of the work within temporally institutionalized contexts, proliferation, contraction, or extension of the proper time of the work, variations or discordances in its conventional rhythm, punctuality, and speed. The term durational is often used then to indicate an artwork that draws attention to its temporal constraint as a constitutive element of its meaning. The meaning of the word duration itself, evolving from the Latin duratus, to last, is bound into the notion of persistence, of remaining through time, and is separable from, but shadowed by the term endurance, which is often associated with sufferance. Endurance art was frequently deployed as a nomination in relation to early performance and body art, with its use of the body in extremis. The term appears somewhat overloaded if applied across the broad spectrum of contemporary durational aesthetics, as it assumes the experience of pain as a primary focus and suggests that this phenomena is incorporated precisely in order to be overcome. Endurance, especially as it's used in relation to other human performances, such as sport, is associated with heroism, and thus a set of narrative operations that are inherently critiqued in much durational work. Here, duration is often deployed as a means to disturb or suspend narrative resolutions and consolidated identities. Long durations can be contrasted with the temporality of eventhood ascribed to much performance work, though they of course could never be free from its force. Extended duration lacks the distinction that separates the event from the mundane, the everyday, the bracketing off and casting out of experiences into the domain of the uneventful, through which the event, as heightened experience, must necessarily be constituted. Resisting time's spatialization in cultural measure, durational aesthetics deal in the confusion of temporal distinctions between past, present, and future, drawing the spectator into the thick braids of paradoxical times. Bergson's distinction between the thought of time and its experience is powerfully operative here. For the spectator, an aesthetics of duration is not chronological time, with time as it is felt as a force and product of relational and intersubjective exchange. Crucially, duration is a kind of entanglement, the very affect Fried found so distasteful in minimalism, its inability to leave the spectator alone. As Mika Baum notes, the quality of the visual object subject to duration is a kind of stickiness. Such works, like Tehching's, stick around. They persist in time and stick to their spectators, conditioning a tactile attentiveness. One might say then that duration nearly always involves the collapse of objective measure. Whether it's short or long in clock time, its passage will be marked by a sense of the warping of time, an opening of regularity to other phenomena or inchoate orders. Duration will often be accompanied by the spatial senses of expansion, suspension, or collapse, or by reverential, chaotic, or cosmic phenomena, as notions of temporal distinction are undone. Time arises in duration, in its indivisibility, and its incapacity to become an object of thought, analysis, or representation. Durational works may then often manifest, prompt, or even integrate a discourse on those necessarily failed forms of thought, memory, knowledge, and representation that attempt duration's resolution, stilling, or fixing. Taking these affects into account, aesthetic duration might then better be defined as a sense passage in which attention is drawn to a time reforming. Duration as perturbance has the force to question the notions and senses of passage, succession, and continuity, the integrities of the moment to moment that form the grammatical structure of common sense understandings of time, and hence its wider cultural rationalization. Taking time itself as a malleable phenomena and subject, the experience of durational works often makes us aware that time is in part a product of structures of thought. Moreover, that our perceptions and understandings of time are a cultural construct and as such open to revision. In particular, Long durational works such as those of Tehching, Marina Abramovich, and many others can be read through what Pamela Lee acutely identifies in the closing passages of her book Chronophobia as an ethics of slowness, a laborious commitment in a cultural context of acceleration to a different pace and understanding of creative generation. For if speed is the principal order of energetics in an advanced capitalist economy, stalling the instantaneity of relations between artistic intention and effect, and between act and representation, the passages of the work, and thus of its reception, becomes a primary means through which to question the values that are embedded and concealed within such passages. The social powers that order and maintain cultural knowledges and experiences of time inevitably try to hide and naturalize their force to make invisible their operations upon the social body. The accelerated temporality of late capitalism is now deeply inscribed in Western social practices and relations, the entire cultural technical milieu, in the very being of subjects, denaturalizing and dehabitualizing perceptions of time. Durational aesthetics are a vital means through which the nature and values of these powers may be opened, their regulatory grip loosened. In their attention to and playful subversion of the orders of time, durational aesthetics give access to other temporalities, to times that will not submit to Western culture's linear, progressive meta-narratives, its orders of commodification, to the times of excluded or marginalized identities and lives, to times as they are felt in diverse bodies. Time, then, as plenitude, heterogeneous, informal, multidimensional, multifaceted. That's it.
I guess I'd like to maybe ask, Adrian, if we could draw out a little bit this, maybe the propositive. It seems like you're making a propositive in durational aesthetics, and maybe we can talk about that a bit more, maybe a bit more simply in terms of what that can offer to sort of structuring daily life or alternate time forms.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think all of the works are propositional in that sense, and I'm trying to draw out from that a sense of propositions in relationship to time structures. I mean, you could see, for instance, Tehching's work as a kind of set of experiments around modes of being. Of course, although they are not necessarily modes of being that we would want to follow, though from what Tehching is saying, someone is really interested in redoing and reiterating the outdoor piece. But you know, they are, all of Tehching's performances are in some way or another experiments of life practice, experimental life practices, but they are also long-lived acts of subjection to tremendous and intolerable difficulty. But through that experiment, they draw attention to conditions of life and to the potential loosening of those conditions. So for me, the proposition inherent in Tehching's work, say, for instance, in the piece, the fragment of the piece that you're showing, the time clock piece, is a proposition about a different order of and sense of time that we feel in the face of these multiply organized temporalities of documentation. So, the time clock piece is a little bit like Tehching was saying. It's, in a sense, he was actually using older technologies, or at least conversations between different technologies. So the film that we see is, in a sense, a kind of conversation between photography and 16mm film. But it produces this extraordinary paradoxical temporal phenomena where we feel both this incredible sense of lost time. We feel the year of his life, and we feel that year passing through his body and its jitters and its shaking, its tremulousness. And we also at the same time feel this, this accelerated time of high capital. And it's in that sort of paradox between capture and loss that the proposition rests, right? Or moves, at least. And it's in our experiential encounter with those phenomena that we can do something with that propositional force that might be transformative in terms of how we live our lives or live our relation to time regulation or to labor itself. I don't know if that answers you, Rachel, but that's a little bit what I took from your question.
Yeah, and I guess I would further, maybe for Tehching or Adrian, follow up with, so the work to reiterate, as it's shown here, there's also a clip of it on YouTube, or I guess the full 6 minutes, but to sort of redraw it, it compresses this whole year of single images right into 6 minutes, so it becomes this animation, right? So this making accessible, this maybe almost too accessible, or like squeezing into a year into this sort of short experienceable work. And I don't know if that's a positive or negative of durational aesthetics, but.
Yeah, for me, well, it's both a sort of an expansion and a contraction, right? It's a paradox, and it's the experience of the paradox, which is the affirmative thing. So that's the phenomena that we do the work with, as it were.
I guess on the question of duration or after art, Tehching, I have another question for you from the audience. And the question is about your choice to keep caring for your own work, to keep being the caretaker all this time, and say, why not pass it on, or what happens to it after that you have left art, but you've taken on a job as the caretaker of this work. And so, yeah, why, I guess, why that choice? Why not sort of leave it to someone else? Is that clear?
Richard, my English not quite understand. You say my work now, I'll give somebody take care of
your work as the caretaker of your previous work. Why not give that job to someone else? So why continue to be the caretaker of your own work in this sense?
I'm sorry, my English, sorry. Adrian, could you explain?
Maybe Adrian can repeat it.
I mean, it's more a question for you, Tehching, about why why you don't leave your work behind,
Or to someone else, right?
or
to care
someone
for.
else to care for it, or to do all the labor of caring. Why is it that it's down to you?
You mean that why I don't want assistant, or why I don't give some foundation to take care? Actually, I do, working with, and but need times. That's why 70 to 80. This is my period time. My mind, I work with because if I don't do, action, then that means that later time my mind not clear, then it's difficult to deal with. So I'm doing. I do doing. Just need time. Rachel, I mean, I'm working with. I'm doing now. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Did I answer you?
Yeah, I guess it's also, I could say, I don't think it's too presumptuous of me to say that I mean, obviously, many people are showing the work now in a way that it wasn't shown previously, and so in a sense, there are a network of people who care, as it were, whose job is the caretaking of your work, right? And so, in a sense, maybe it's not so much from my point of view, I wouldn't necessarily sort of picture it as you being the sole caretaker, as it were, and that actually, in a sense, you are in a process of handing the work over to other bodies and other agents and other systems. I guess in a way, that's also how I think of this conversation, right? It's a means of caretaking and of Rachel's brilliant curation and placement of this work in relationship to the many other fantastic works in the exhibition. Those are modes of continuing the life forces of your work and the work of others that sustain the work in time. And the way that the work is sustained in time is through its transformation. So, although when you give the work to an institution or to a museum or a gallery to show it, you give it in a fixed form. As your story with the woman artist who is seeking to redo the outdoor piece shows, of course, what we do with the work is up to us, and we can take it and transform it and remodulate it. So it lives on in many different ways. It has many different afterlives.
Tehching, has anyone ever, in fact, reenacted one of these works, of your one-year works?
Adrian, help me again. Did Rachel ask me? Did somebody try to contact with me about
To reenact?
Redo.
To redo any of them, not just the outdoor piece, but have there been reenactments or redoings?
Redo what mean? To duplicate?
Do it again, yeah.
You mean to show or what?
No, so actually,
To perform.
like the artist who's...
Oh, I see, look like Marina.
Yeah.
To do a lot, some other artist to do that, right? I see, because it said that this is, it's not like, I should not, this is it's in public, question. It's not like I expect people, because it said people wasting time. People don't want wasting time, okay? So if you do this kind, it's not like I rather, I don't expect people to do report. I don't, I don't want, because I feel this is I don't encourage people to do this, I just, because I know, it's only me, I do it's enough. But if people want to do that, of course, I help them to help them, but of course it's complicated. Depend what's the issue, like I say, this artist, say wanted to perform outdoor piece, but she's a female. But the question is, okay, I should support her because I know if you want to do it, I cannot stop you. But I know if you ask me to give you a permission, then I feel you already is complicated. You want me to give you permission, and that become to me. I don't ask this kind, because you ask permission, it look like you document everything and also have piece 13 that you do, but since it's not that simple. I become involved with the, it's like I don't stay in the distance and to feel good about you. Look like this kind of collaboration. I don't think it's good. It's good idea. Because if you want person to do it, and I say why you want to do, I already performed. I say that's good for yourself, it's fine, but if you want to do it in public, because traditionally what you do, same idea, why you don't want to create one piece, 1 year perform in different, because you have something to, you have to feel, it's good for your own, and she answer is more herself, right? But you still want to document what you need my proof about, look like a young generation, they want to be to document, it's an issue. To me, my personality, I feel that kind is, it's more early to say this kind. Should be more independent, your own. Anyway, I think each case different, because to me, we perform 1 year perform is. I know I already know some people did differently. And I don't. They don't come to me, but they do different concept, but they do it. But even. The father encouraged you to do it. And then I already write letter to this young man to do. I already said, I respect you. Then father want me to do right. I write letter to because he already continue to do it, and then I write. He want me on. He don't want me just write letter to the father himself. He said he want me to write to the son. I said I already write a letter to you and you can give to him. But so I don't write, and then he become angry me. The father is a psychiatrist doctor. And then he said, I'm not good person or something, Well, because, you have a democracy, you're free to do what you want. But if I don't, support this idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, thank you for answering. Of course, it isn't the same anyway, but thank you for addressing it. We are basically out of time, so I wanted to say thank you so much to Adrian, Amelia, and Tehching, and to everyone for joining in. We should be reopen again soon, physically speaking, so people can come and see the work, and others But as well as we go through these events, we will always be doing them online and reaching you that way. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have already live several works on our online publication platform, so you can check us there as well. But with that, thanks so much, and I'll go ahead and close it. I really appreciate all your contributions.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Amelia.
Thank you, Tehching.
Thank you, Tom.
Good night. Good afternoon in New York.
Buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks.